everybody knows Ian's been working like a whatever to revamp everything and increase the technical or the technological capabilities and everything of this. So he's the brains, I'm the beauty.
Perfect.
So the black backgrounds are going away. So if you really love them, this will be the last week for the black. we're moving to a brighter background, making it a lot more white, and it'll be a lot easier to read.
And just so you know, the car in the background here, we actually filmed. It took about 4 or 5 tries to get the car perfectly blurry the way we wanted it.
Perfect. Yeah.
The dealer was
looks like it's
ticked at us for revving out his Porsche. So
looks like it's just speeding on by.
Yeah.
I figure you should at least have a car in an auto show.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to start the video. So the video is about 5 minutes. These are actually 2 videos put together. Yeah.
You should enjoy these. These are quite good. No audio. Oh, there we go.
The number you have dialed is not in service at this time, so it has been disconnected.
Woman, please be gone. You stayed here much too long. Good morning, Steve here. Hope you're having a great day so far. It's a beautiful day, June 28th, 2017. Canada Day is on Saturday. A few days left in the month, so we're trying to push hard, get a few more sales out. The month started off slow for me. It's turned into a successful month. I did a video after I got my first sale this month. I'm going to be making a video at the end of the month talking about some sales techniques that worked for me. And I'll talk a little bit about what those were. I'll be making about 30 or 40 cold calls today to see if I can get some more business out of that. Doing anything I can to have a strong finish here. If you're in sales, it could be car sales, any kind of sales, month's not over. So don't give up, stay positive. Success will come your way.
Hi, good morning. Hi, good morning.
Thank you for calling Saskatchewan Polytechnic.
He wasn't trusty. How are you? Right. Be happy to show them to you, okay? There's a link very warm. We got some great incentives and some great deals on for month end here. Do you think that's something you might be interested in? Nope. What did you end up replacing the real with? Have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye. You have a few minutes to chat, or should I call you back another time? Is there already a bun in the oven or no? Congratulations, I guess. You know anybody in the market for New Year?
So I made a bunch of cold calls. I did not book any appointments. I did put the effort in. I didn't get anything out of it. But I've got a few other things I'm working on today. I should be able to close up a deal with some other customers. But you guys are having a great day so far. We'll check back in later. Thank you.
If we get myself, I'm
Just closed the deal with some customers of mine that I've been working for a few days. They almost didn't buy it because we didn't have the model they wanted, but we looked around, found the unit, had another deal that we'll be bringing in for them. That just goes to show you to stay persistent, be positive, think outside the box, and things will work out for you. Hope everyone's having a great day, and we'll check back in later. Thanks.
No, look, I understand, Doctor. I'm really busy here myself. Look, we're going to come back to you in 1 month with one idea and one idea only. If you like what we have to say, great. We'll do business. If not, worst case scenario, you're going to give yourself a new business idea.
Whoever took that x-ray is useless.
We're going to part as friends. That's fair, right?
What?
Doc, are you working with $1 million in the market right now?
Who is this again?
And tell me something. You're a doctor. Have you ever heard of a drug called Benadryl? Being manufactured by MSC Pharmaceuticals.
No.
Well, listen, okay? Listen, it's in the 3rd stage of FDA approval, all right? Word is it's going to be approved within the next 3 months. It could be tomorrow for all I know. I'm getting ahead of myself, and you're real busy over there. So why don't I just send you out the information you requested about the firm?
No, wait. Forget the info. Forget the info. Let's talk about this now. What was the name of that drug again?
Could you hold on for 1 second? I'm gonna get a senior broker who's a little more familiar with that particular stuff. All right, hold on a second, okay? 1 second. Okay, so his name's Dr. Jacobs, and I take from the sound of it, he's definitely.
Well, I don't want to hear it, kid.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Jacobs. This is Chris Marlin over at JT Marlin. Marlin? Right, he's my father.
He's my mother.
So my associate tells me you're interested in one of our stocks. I will call her back. Yes, MSC sounds like it might be interesting. Might be doesn't sell stock at the rate MSC is going for, Dr. Jacobs. We're talking very high volume here. Well, I still have to run it by my team. That's great, Doc, if you want to miss yet another opportunity here and watch your colleagues get rich doing clinical trials, then don't buy a share and hang up the phone. Well, hold on a second. I didn't say that. I just want to talk about it. Honestly, Doc, I don't have the time. This stock is blowing up right now. The whole firm's going nuts. Hold on. Let me open up the door to my office. See that, Doc? That's my trading floor. Now I have a million calls to make to a million other doctors who are already in the know. I can't walk you through this right now. I'm sorry. Okay, let's do this. Now, since you're a new account, I cannot go any higher than 2,000 shares. I'm sorry. 2,000? Are you nuts? That is way beyond what I was thinking. 2,000? Jesus. Listen, I'm curious. Why can't you sell me any more than that? Well, we like to establish a relationship with our clients on something small before we get to the serious trade. Let me show you several percentage points on this small trade, and then we'll talk about doing future business. That sounds good. Give me the 2,000 shares. Done. You sure you can't do any better on this one? I'm sorry, Dr. Jacobs. I can't. I'm sorry. All right. We'll start with this trade then. Great. I promise we'll swing for the fences on the next one. Do you want that confirmation sent to your office or your mansion? Funny, Mr. Marlin. Let me put my secretary on. She'll take down your info. It was a pleasure doing business with you. Done and done.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I always like to start with a slide. So these are a couple more books for the week. I'm running out of books that I don't have handy. So these are a few. If you're not familiar with Robert Calandini, he's done a lot of work on data-backed sales. So if you're curious about sales and selling more, he's done a book called Influence, Persuasion, and Persuasion. It's all backed up with data. So if you want to know how to sell more and why you can sell more, these are great books. One of my personal favorites, Oren Klaff. This is his first book. I'm currently reading his second book, which is called Flip the Script. Highly recommend it. He's another one who really is interested in changing the way people sell. But more importantly, his techniques are very different. So those are just a few books.
Awesome.
Jeff, myself, AutoHub, looking forward to new logo and new slide deck for next week. You might see a taste of it behind us. You'll also notice a lot of differences on the website. We've been doing some enhancement, and we will be building out more and more features for our speakers and our guests. So stay tuned. First of all, some housekeeping items. This is our meeting, not my meeting or Jeff's meeting. Please mute and unmute yourself. Click raise your hand and we'll call on you. I'm going to be moderating the chat box. So if you have any questions, obviously you have to ask them, just put them in the chat box. There's a wealth of knowledge on the call, so let's share and respect each other's time. We ask that AutoHub participants be open to sharing ideas and be okay with others using them. Absolutely no selling, please. We do have a selling show on Fridays called Vendor Speaks. If you are interested in that as a speaker, definitely reach out to myself or Jeff. We can help with that. Open discussion with a focus on improving businesses. We value your input, speak up and bring value. Brainstorm ideas, ask questions. Be respectful of everyone's time. We're all busy professionals. Stay on topic. Feel free to challenge our speakers to bring value and content that can help you, because that's why they're here on the call. Visit AutoHubClub.com for more details on past sessions. We'll be adding recordings in the near future of these. So the first Vendor Speak recording, hopefully will be live this week. Vendor Speak is open to all past AutoHub speakers. Reach out to myself or Jeff for best practices, which are already on the site, and to schedule Vendor Speak sessions. There won't be one this Friday because it's month end, and I just don't think that makes sense, but we will be booking them for next month. AutoHub team's always looking for ways and ideas there to make it better. So week 16, the art of the BDC, customer care departments. Both Matt and Janice have huge experience in this area. I've known them both personally for a long time. And just in case you didn't know this about me, I did set up and train BDCs myself. So I know a lot about it personally. I've worked with both of them for a long time, so I know they have a lot of value. Janice owns the Car Girls, which is a Toronto-based operation. Janice, is that correct?
Yeah, we're about 40 minutes north of Toronto.
Okay, and then Matt is the owner of AutoStart. I worked with him years ago at Absolute Results, and he managed the call center for them. So he has a volume of experience, but also a lot of deep retail experience as well, as does Janice. So first we're gonna start with Janice. So I'm gonna have Jeff introduce Janice.
Well, actually, I thought we were going to start with Matt.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Janice. Not saying you're not number one, but we promised Matt, and he said he'd get really upset if he didn't get to go first.
Okay, no, let's do Matt. Let's do Matt. Sorry.
Actually, Matt, I think both Matt and Janice have set it up so we can lead in and segue over to Janice. So
no problem.
Everybody, thanks for attending. We greatly appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us on a Monday morning, and hopefully it's a nice weather where you are. And, you know, I did have the pleasure of working with Ian on a startup of BDC with the dealer group I was at, so he wasn't bad at it. And Matt, of course, is a person with deep experience and a lot of BDCs, a lot of direct with dealership work experience. He's from the sprawling metropolis of Salmon Arm, British Columbia. And any of you who've traveled in the summer, which is not the biggest one this year, knows where Salmon Arm is, but he's coming to us from the other sprawling metropolis of Regina, Saskatchewan. And so Matt, thank you so much for attending. We appreciate you taking the time, and we'll just get moving right into it.
All right, well, sounds good.
Terrific. So tell me something, how important are metrics, and what are the example of what we need to measure to make sure the PDCs actually are worthwhile?
Well, you know, it's actually a really great question. I think first of all, I just want to thank both of you for giving me this opportunity to come on and talk. And, you know, I've known both Ian and Jeff over the years, and it's a real pleasure to be here. And I want to thank you for the invitation. That gave me a moment to think about your question. Because that one's a really big one. And I know that Janice will probably get into some of the nuts and bolts of that. So for me, I really want to talk in a more philosophical sense, more of the why about stuff. But metrics isn't sexy. It's not cool. And it's one of those things that we tend to not really pay attention to in the car business. And I say that to my own, you know, to my own deprivation as well, because as a guy that's managed stores and been in the business for a long time,
I can go into another room and then you can watch
that as well. And so when you ask me about metrics, I would say that metrics are, you know, we say, well, you can't really manage what you don't measure. You know, it's an old adage, but I often think as well, you can't manage what you don't even know what to measure. And so when it comes down to determining what are the KPIs that I am going to be paying attention to, some of them might really surprise you. I know that when we had our call center and we were doing somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 million calls a year, and we had 45 people rocking it out in there, They're one of the KPIs that that were really important to us was, did you show up for work today? and you know, you think, oh, that's not a real KPI. Well, it really is, because it depends a lot on how productive you're going to be. And when we look at the current environment that we're in, where we have a lot of people, including our agents, that are working out of their homes, whether or not they're showing up mentally and physically and emotionally prepared to do their jobs is important. So metrics, as far as, you know, how many calls did you make in this hour? Just think in terms of your sales force and your BDCs. I know to a great extent, we want to talk a little bit about the call centers as well. And of course, that's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, because we spent so much time and energy on those. But often I think in terms of, what did you learn that you can apply to your sales force when Janice and I aren't in the room, or we're not there influencing what's going on? And are they actively involved in helping make those calls? And what are you looking out for? How many, you know, we watched the video a little bit earlier here, and you go, well, how many of those calls was a good call? How many of those calls was the salesperson motivated and ready to contact the customer? Did the salesperson understand that when the data comes in, it's not necessarily the best data in the world? So when you end up getting the cannabis company on the line, and you're actually trying to find somebody who is, you know, is a customer of yours, how do you respond to that emotionally? How do you respond when you've parachuted into somebody's day and they're bitter and they're angry because they just had an argument with their partner? And so these are things that we talk about. So not just how many people did you talk to, you know, how many appointments did you make, how many of them showed up, how many of them did you write up a deal, and how many did you close? All of those things are key metrics, and we need to talk about those as well, because those are things that we can genuinely measure and track day to day. But there's other KPIs that are important that you need to be aware of. So metrics, super important. It's not sexy, but it needs to be the foundation of what we do.
I have another question for you, Matt. Why do sales departments struggle to convert the leads that are generated and handed to them from the call center?
You know, again, I don't have a dog in the fight. So in other words, I don't think anybody on the call is my client. And if you are, this isn't directed at you. But a lot of it comes down to, how are we? So when you get something for free, how much value is there? And so the dealership knows that it's paying for the lead. It knows that it's paying for the call center, the BDC, to make those calls, whether you're paying per call, whether you're paying per hour, or whether you're paying an employee. There's an expense to that. But quite often that lead has, through its life cycle, moves from the BDC or the call center. It moves down the line to somebody's phone. It goes bing, hey, you have a lead. And the manager or the salesperson at that point needs to take ownership of it. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we face. A part of our business, when we were doing the fresh wheels, where we were sending clients subprime leads, it was very frustrating to know that client is unique, and the way that we interact with them needs to be unique. And so you were supposed to phone at 10 o'clock this morning, and you decided to phone around 10:30. So the real challenge, I think, is in ownership. It's in ownership of that lead, where you're able to recognize as a manager, as a leader, how valuable that lead is, not just in how they are going to be interacted with, but how valuable it is and how much money you spent to get that client in there. I mean, we don't have time to do this today, but I would love to poll the group and find out what you think you pay for each one of those leads, because you might be very surprised to know that our goal is to get that lead at a fraction of what it costs to have that customer walk in the front door. But we still have our storefronts. We still have to turn the lights on. We still have to provide pencils and paper for our salespeople. And there's still a tremendous amount of cost to every single customer that walks through the door. So I think the real challenge, if I might be so bold to the group and be sort of like a challenge to the group, is, man, take those leads, whether they come from Janice, whether they come from your BDC, wherever they come from, and recognize just how important it is. And understanding the life cycle of that lead is vital. I was thinking in terms of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes have about the same life cycle as a lead, kind of 7 days. 91% of people that you make contact with have bought a car within 7 days. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have proactive and active follow-up, but when that mosquito lands on you, you had better take action, especially if you're you're living in those areas where those mosquitoes can give you malaria, or even if you react. So there is a life cycle, but there is also a moment in time when that lead is most valuable, and understanding that life cycle of the lead becomes vital to your ownership of it and taking the appropriate action. So I think the answer, the long answer is that. The short answer is leadership, management. You know, how are we overseeing the people that are interacting with the customer? Is that the weak link? It's a question only you can answer as a dealer.
I have to tell you something. I have never heard the analogy of the mosquito for a lead, but boy, is that perfect. It really is. If you get that, so many times we get a lead and it sits there or it isn't done. And also your comment about showing up to work was very good. And by the way, you know, wanting to talk about this further sounds like a beautiful segue for me to promote Vendor Speak on Fridays. And maybe we should talk, Matt. Okay. Tell me something though, on leads, and, you know, we talk about cost per leads, etc. What's the best way to structure pricing or paying for this type of work? Should it be per call, per hour, per lead? What should it be?
Well, you should pay lots, right, Janice? I mean, I think it's a great service. I think again, and I don't want to be overly wordy and too overly analytical, but you can imagine I have a lot of windscreen time, so I get plenty of time to think about these things. And when you think about pricing, you have to pay an appropriate amount for it. I just think, you know, again, I'm not running a call center at the moment. All my business is training events. That's what it is. But I can tell you that even to turn the wheels on an event, in other words, to pay somebody a reasonable wage to make that call, to collect data, to create creatives if that's necessary, to do scripting, I am pretty darn convinced that per individual, you just can't do that for less than at least 25 bucks an hour, maybe a little bit more. But having said that, what does that really mean? I mean, at that point, the call center also needs to make a little bit of money. But if you knew that you were getting quality interaction with your client, and you knew that you were generating leads from it, then you would all of a sudden see that that could be a real value. And when you compare it to the lead that walks through the front door or phones you, you know, becomes a digital lead that becomes a phone call. By the way, 2 out of 3 online searches end up in a phone call. That's a digital lead. Is for us to understand that when we do the comparisons, then we understand that that's actually quite an affordable lead. Now, if you're running your own BDCs, you're going to be taking that into account as well. And again, it's one of those things that we go, well, you know, ties into our last question about the metrics. Certainly we have to understand, you know, are we getting a quality call? Are we getting, you know, enough attempts out to that client that we can reach them? Are we overdoing it? You know, sometimes I know we had dealers say, you know, make 5 or 6 calls and make calls until you reach your customer. But I can tell you that primarily in those first three calls is where you're going to get over 90% of your leads. Beyond that, you're just hammering through something that really isn't effective as it will, but not more effective. It's just, you know, the odds of getting traction beyond that are slim to none. But when you think about your BDC offices, whenever I've set them up, we've always done it a combination where you get a little bit of a salary or an hourly wage, and then you also incentivize that person to generate traffic for the showroom leads or for your service and parts departments, because all the BDC offices are able to handle those things. The other thing that I really think is important about pricing is really thinking about, you know, what it is you're trying to accomplish. When you're just doing what we call drip marketing, where I'm constantly on a regular basis, which we do for some of our clients, which is we just send a regular text, send a regular email, we'll drop you a regular phone call just in order to maintain that context. But if I'm doing a big push and I really need to move the needle for month end or whatever it is, and then I'm going to be more active and more aggressive and have a better quality call, if you will, or one that has a stronger call to action, at least that's associated with some passion, all of a sudden that becomes a really valuable call. And typically when that happens, you need to pay a little bit more for that because you're asking for a little bit more activity, a little bit more drive. So I guess specifically to help you guys understand that there is a cost attached. A lot of times the calls are made voice over IP, which means that you need a pretty sophisticated system in order to be able to execute that number of calls in a period of time that you require. And that means that there is a cost associated with that as well. And those aren't cheap systems, I can assure you.
Perfect.
Thanks very much, Matt. So we're gonna go ahead and bring Janice into the conversation just because of obviously time. Janice, I've known Janice for, I don't know, 10 years. I worked with her back in the day, setting up call centers all over North America. So she's very well versed in the call center business. And then she went off on her own and started the Car Girls. So Janice, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the Car Girls and why you started.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Jeff and Ian. It's a pleasure to be on the show. And it's great to meet Matt as well. Actually, my first company was called FemLogic, where I was educating women about the automotive industry. And I'm a longtime advocate of getting more women involved in automotive. You have to look to Major League Baseball team owners to find a segment less populated by women. Even accounting in administrative positions, women still are less than, I think it's about 22% of employees in retail automotive dealerships right now. So that's always been one of my goals, is to help empower women to join automotive, because it's a wonderful business, and the car biz needs more women, and has for a long time.
Well, we do have a future show coming up, our Women in the Car Business, so we'll get you on board there too.
Absolutely.
Right on. And you know what? I want to hear more from women. I want to hear more from women about women in automotive. That's who I'd like to hear from, women, and what their challenges and what their experience has been. Because, you know, it's been 30 years in retail automotive. It's been a long road, but I love BDC. I really enjoy it. You know, it's hard work selling cars. I sold cars myself. I've delivered about 2,100 new vehicles. I sold about 900 minivans, like literally screwed the plates on, wrote the deals. And so I love just creating a lead and pushing it out there, and then I get out. I don't have to get it financed. I don't have to find the car. I don't have to deliver it. So I love about BDC. A couple of things I was thinking of when you guys were talking about converting the lead, because I follow up on appointments, and that's part of what we do here, is just follow up, and let's just check in with people and say thank you. Ian, I know you love to read. You turned me on to Gary Vaynerchuk 10 years ago, who I got to meet, and I love Gary. He wrote a book called The Thank You Economy. And that right away, you just got to keep that thank you in your back pocket all the time. Why are you calling? To say thanks. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for making an inquiry. I just don't think we thank customers enough. And that, you know, it's a great way to open a call. But what I find when we call to say thank you for visiting the dealership, what I'm hearing from customers is a lack of preparedness. So why did we fail to convert the lead? This is what I hear from customers. They didn't know I was coming in. They weren't prepared. They didn't realize I had a lease coming up. They didn't have my terms. They didn't have my payout. They didn't know how many payments I had left. I had to educate them. This is a customer who's telling me that. We're the professionals. I mean, if you're getting pushed a leased customer, a financed customer that bought from you, I mean, I would, you know, to be prepared, to have the file ready to go. I was involved in some Ford training many years ago with the red carpet lease. And we used to have the huddle before the customer came in, and we would, you know, make sure, and we were talking about renewal rates at 85% where we would renew the customer because we had the huddle and we were prepared. We knew what stock unit we were going to put them on. We knew approximately where we were at on their trade. We were prepared for the appointment. I love it when the dealership has the appointment board welcoming Mr. and Mrs. Johnson today. Let's be prepared. How many times I've heard from customers, they didn't even know I was coming. You know, a lot when I drive into a dealership, which hasn't been lately because of COVID, but I drive into a dealership, one of the first things I'm looking for is parking. Where's the customer going to park? It's as simple as that. And believe it or not, you know the stat, and this is an NADA stat, it's frightening. 95% of women who start on the showroom floor as salespeople leave in the first year. 95%. Now, some of this, where does it stem from? Believe it or not, some of it's parking. You know, they don't know where to park. They come in, they're confused, and what's good for women is good for men. Okay, and car lots can be tricky. Where to park, where to go. People, just that first step, walking people through. You know, I had one dealership in the city where I knew this was a problem, and I would tell them, just pull right up to the front, go in, tell the receptionist I parked in the, you know, in the loading zone or wherever the heck, just park and go in because people will leave. So it just starts with being prepared, having a place for people to park, knowing they're coming. I mean, how does that, when you go into a store, I used to go to Sears all the time and use my card because they would call me Mrs. Showers, and I just love to hear it. Oh, thank you, that's me, right? When you greet them, you know, Lee Iacocca said we have 10 seconds to make a good first impression with customers, and I believe that, whether it's on the phone or in person. So let's not drop the ball with this hard-earned appointment right in the first 10 seconds and not be prepared and not give them a good greeting. Let's expect them. So that's one of the key things when I see on conversion is being prepared and, you know, putting on that really good first impression. We gotta work on that.
I got a question for you, Janice. How can dealerships improve their BDC results?
Well, we already talked, and to speak to Matt, I love some of the stuff Matt said, you know, about the metrics. Let's start measuring for starters, you know. But the measuring needs to become part of the culture. So when we walk in, the BDC, and one of the things we always used to say, pay your rent in the morning, okay? Because how often do we see, you know, someone gets grabbed out of the BDC, oh, we need someone to drive the shuttle, or we need someone to file work orders. No, we need to be on the phone. That's what the BDC is about. It's about laser focus. It's part of the reason why I have a business, because the focus gets lost in the shuffle in the dealership. You know, I personally, one of the things I love about BDC, I love the Travers model. Everybody starts in the BDC, because it's going to be, you're going to have some turnover in the BDC. People like, you know, doing this all day long, not everyone has got it, okay? I like to put everybody in the BDC. The salespeople, you sit in the BDC, you get 3 appointments, now you can have an up. I like that model. But in general, in the BDC measurement, and I like to put it out there. Let's create a culture and let's make it fun. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you got to make this many calls. I mean, let's reward, people will do more for appreciation and recognition than they will for money. So start there. Start with building a culture, making it fun. I recently had an opportunity to go into a BDC that was underperforming. It was a group of young girls. They had their own little building, and we did some great things there because we turned things around. They ended up coming in on a Sunday and painting the place, And, you know, having some rewards, like at month end, they all got to go out together and have a spa day. You know, we built a culture where they supported each other. And that's, you know, that you're not just coming in and you're a lone wolf and that you're on your own. And that speaks to building the BDC relationship with the sales team as well. And not just have them out on their own as an island. You know, I'm a big believer in centralized BDC, and a lot of dealers, I get questioned about that. You know, when I like sales, service, parts together. I like a BDC rep who can act, dance, and sing, okay? Service, sales, and parts. Let's put it together but that's not what I hear. I go into a store and I hear, oh no, service BDC, no. That's my brother runs the service department. We haven't spoken in a couple of years. And that girl sits over there in that corner and she's got nothing to do with the sales department. Okay, you know, and then we see a service email blast go out about a service promo, and then a sales email blast went out the same day. No one's talking to each other. And all of a sudden we've got a couple hundred unsubscribes. Centralized BDC, it works. They can do backup for each other. Centralized BDC works. Yeah, somebody said break down the silos. The silos on everything, your data silos, your parts and service silos. So daily accountability. So here's some real news you can use. I love the good old fashioned whiteboard. And this is something I implemented in this BDC that we turned around, who actually with a couple different efforts, but we actually doubled CP month over month, doubled CP month over month. I'll say that again, because that's what happened when we really started measuring. I mean, there was 4 girls with not enough call volume, 30 calls a piece a day, not enough. We pushed them. We want 60 calls before noon from 4 girls. And you start looking at those numbers. Your number one secret here is just call volume. You have to make enough calls. So if that's the first thing that's going on, and it's the first thing I'm going to look for when I go into a dealership BDC, even when I go and look at a salesperson and see what they're doing, it starts with volume. How many people are we talking to? It's a simple rule. How many dials are we making? So when we put in some accountability, this isn't just set it and forget it. So, you know, sales managers, service managers, you're putting a girl on the phone or a guy on the phone and you're just leaving them and you come back a week later, what happened? It's too late, okay? We're coming in the BDC at 11:45 before lunch. What happened this morning, okay? And those results go on the board. And just because they're displayed, you get accountability, you will get improved results just on that small technique alone, putting up those results. Okay, how many calls do we get done before noon? Because we need to pay the rent. Because the BDC is a profit center, not an expense. And if your BDC is an expense, that's an issue. It never should be. We've got to break it down in small chunks.
Yeah, you've actually answered a question I wanted to ask you about expense and failure, etc. And that's terrific. One thing I really, really enjoyed was your comment about they take the BDC person because somebody needs a ride, something this and that. And I find that it's so true. I mean, I've seen it so often. And, you know, especially if you've got a service BDC, we need you to drive. Sales needs somebody picked up. Here, go take a demo and pick them up or something like that. So that was terrific and very great input. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a quick question for you, Janice. What's the best way to keep track of daily traffic?
I'm sorry, Ian, keep
track of daily traffic. So obviously we got the sales and the service BDC integrated, which I love. Work in many places where it's separated and all that stuff. But what's the best way to keep track of daily traffic using the BDC in a store?
Well, Ian, you and I have both done lots of work when we've gone into a dealership and our job is to just manage the traffic. And I think dealers need to look at, again, on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, and put it together. I mean, again, let's get rid of these silos, the internet leads, the phone leads. And a lot of times these are tied together. An internet lead is the phone, it's the same lead. who's seen a duplicate lead before? One come in on the phone, one come in, and we're counting it twice or two on the internet. So I think just managing the leads daily from all sources when we're talking about inbound and measuring, that'll help us measure the cost as well. I mean, I found that interesting, $35 a lead. Is that like, is that based on all lead sources combined? Are we talking about Kijiji, Auto Trader, the website, the OEM, you know, the results of a campaign? It can be tough to manage those leads, but that's part of it. And one of the notes, one of the little tricks that we used to have was we actually would incentivize reception. And in some of the bigger dealers and in the States, and Ian and I have both worked at some big dealers in the States where they actually have a spotter where they're actually spotting, you know, floor traffic and writing it down. It should be even easier these days when everybody is, you know, we're setting everything up on the phone prior because it's all appointment, to know exactly what happened. And for call volume in the BDC, I mean, if most of you guys are using, I know one of my dealers was going to be on today who's using Vin Solutions, which has some great reporting. And, you know, you don't have to necessarily, and a lot of these reports like Dealer Mine has a great reporting tool, Socket has a good reporting tool where you can set up and have an auto email come to your email every day and give you that report. That doesn't always give you an accurate depiction though. And I like the girls to track manually. Okay, call me old fashioned, you know, 30 years in the car business. I like the old manual tracker, and we'll compare that to the, you know, to what's in the computer.
You know, I once had a dealer that his statement was, he says, how do you double your traffic? Count it. Yeah. And it's very true. And I really like that manual tracking, all the electronic stuff. One of my things has always been, all the electronic solutions in the world are digital solutions. Doesn't take the place of good old-fashioned practices. Tell me, how can you create a cooperative relationship between the sales team in the BDC or the service team in the BDC?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? We need to see more of that for sure. You know, one of the, and again, I'm thinking about the one most recently that I helped turn around and change up. Tiffany, so my dealer is on here, right on. She says, so we actually send for us, and part of the reason why I have a business is because of what goes on in the dealership. Having that laser focus, we can sit down and for 4 hours, 3 hours, laser focus on strictly phone calls with no interruptions. And we send actually, and accountability is very important to me, to be accountable to industry standards. And we all, you know, manage by the numbers, is we send a daily email. So I like that. Your BDC manager, and again, that's part of the accountability, those numbers that are going on the whiteboard. If we're doing a roll call, which is something we can do, how many calls, you know, you make it fun. You can give away, you know, a little chocolate bar, candy, or some little thing, whoever's got the highest roll call for that hour, that morning, that afternoon. But we used to take an afternoon and we would rotate the girls in service. So the BDC girl is working in a different building. We'd put her on the desk. So she needs to be beside a service advisor and see how the appointment comes in, see how it's written up, see how the work order is written up, see how the lines on the work order are reviewed, see if there was upsell from the seed that was planted by the BDC for a flush, for an inspection, for maintenance work. And so they can hear, you know, what the direct results of their calls are, to stand side by side with the service advisor. And to me, your BDC, I mean, staffing is always an issue in dealership. Tell me anybody in a dealership who hasn't struggled with staffing, right? Everybody, to me, everyone should start in the BDC. Everyone goes through the BDC. It's part of the training. So I don't know how many BDC operatives I've turned into service advisors who end up as advisors, but quite a few, because that's where they found their feet. That's where they get their confidence. So involving them, putting them on the service desk. and letting them see it in action. Instead of, again, they're just off in the corner, they're not involved. Let's involve them through every step of that process. Bring them in the shop. They can dress for it one day and go in the shop and see a car up on the hoist and, talk to a technician and see firsthand, this is who they're helping to feed, to keep busy. And, that customer, and help customers get looked after by being the in-between person. Same thing with sales. And I've seen sales too often not involve the BDC, right? Bring them to the sales meeting. Okay, this BDC should be involved in your sales meeting. They're part of it. They should know what the current promo is. Okay, how many managers do we have on here might be guilty for not, for not telling everybody what's going on, or we find out at the last minute there's going to be a sale. We're the BDC. It might help us to know if an event's coming down the pipe. So you have to involve them and make them part of the team. And make sure the sales department understands that the BDC is there to help them, to assist them. There's no competition. We talked about pay plans. I don't believe in pitting them up against each other. And one of the things in a pay plan that I would be very careful of, and this comes from experience and going into dealerships, is the pay for show. Okay, I don't like to see $25 pay for show, $50 paid for a show appointment, because it invites cheating and it invites, bringing in leads that may not close. And I've even seen, sounds a little crazy, but I've seen a salesperson and a BDC person splitting the show money on a walk-in. So I just don't pay a small amount for show. Okay, I like pay for call volume on an accurate measurement, pay a small amount for show, and then pay for sold.
I have a question, Janice, from the
in the game.
I got a question from the floor from Haney Jordan.
Hi, Janice. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, question for you. Right now, like we know from the experience with BDC that BDC agent job is basically to sell an appointment, not to sell a car. That's correct, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And with digital retail coming in very strong right now in all the dealership, and especially with COVID, what do you think right now? Because we can actually, right now, we're supposed to sell cars online and on the phone, on everything, right? Not just sell an appointment. How do you see the BDC agent involved in this transaction? Is it, should we go to the sales or should stay in the BDC?
Well, what we want to do is make sure that every customer is getting looked after. And if the BDC, if the salesperson is on a line with somebody else, I mean, the BDC again can be an assistant. And when the BDC operatives, okay, when your customer care people are ready, move them up, okay? If it's time for them to get an OMVIC license here in Ontario or an AMVIC license in Alberta, move them up. Why can't they be, when the time is right, I would have them selling on the phone and give them the proper training and credentials, and we can move them on up. One thing that I've been hearing and seeing with a lot of online appointments, and I heard Matt speak to this, is where somebody's supposed to call at 10 o'clock and the salesperson didn't call. What I'm finding, what's my experience has been with COVID, is that scheduling an exact phone call is tough. I mean, what if a customer walks in at that time? What if, what if somebody else is calling and all of a sudden it's 10:15? So what I like to do is give people a range. We'll be calling you on the morning of July 28th between 9 and noon. And what's the best daytime number to reach you? And let's grab your email address and confirm, okay? Emails, wow. Another thing, I want to make another quick point about an email problem that I saw, but give people a range on that appointment time. And that's something the BDC can be doing, is setting up for the salesperson. Okay, it's setting them up for success, not failure. So let's not set up this phone call at 10:15. That is not going to happen. Let's go for a range. Let's make sure we get a valid cell phone number, get the customer opted in for text, get a valid email address so we can connect to them on all different levels. Like Ian said, he's using video. You know, I think the platforms are, you know, we have to be able to phone, email, text, video, chat, connect with people on social. I think we have to be ready to use all mediums available to us. One thing I was going to say about email recently, and it's something when we call after sale, so to call to say thank you, call to look for a good SSI. One of the things that we are doing is we are every single time we are confirming email, and I've seen as high as over 75% where the email wasn't accurate, whether the you know, the F&I manager didn't record the email correctly, where something was lost from it going from paper into the computer, or the customer didn't, something happened, but I see a lot of wrong email addresses. So I think that's important. Let's get, because that's after sale, you know, in the life cycle of the customer, not just the lead. Once we convert them, hopefully they're going to be a customer for life. We got to make sure that we can get a hold of them, and that we have permission to get a hold of them. I'd be looking, also dealers, here's another tip for you. I'd be looking for express consent on everybody. Express consent till you opt out. Don't let people expire, okay? Customers are like fruit on the counter, it's going bad. So let's make sure that we're allowed to get a hold of people long-term, and they give us that consent.
And thanks very much, Janice. We really appreciate that. It's very, very important, especially with Castle and the Canadian market and the anti-spam regulations in the U.S. market for our American friends.
Yeah.
And since at the time, we just got a couple more slides to go over today. Thanks very much, Matt and Janice, for coming on today. Really appreciate it. If there's any final questions, let me know. Next week's show, we have 2 of the 4 confirmed. It may be 3 people, but it's going to be on marketing and automotive. It's going to be a panel discussion. So if anyone has any guest possibles, I mean, I'm happy to listen, but I've already got Neil and George confirmed, and more than likely JP and someone from a big auto group confirmed as well. JP is going to be speaking towards both sides because he worked in retail and now works for Kia Canada. So that's what the show is going to be next week. Because of the holiday, it'll be on a Tuesday next week, just so you know. And we will be moving to our new Zoom account for the show. So the Zoom may change, but the standard emails will go out.
I just want to say, by the way, for anybody that's going to be a guest in our show, you do not have to form the same pose as George there.
Well, hopefully I'll get a more professional photo of George, but he's going to be joining us from Greece. And if you look at his LinkedIn profile, it's a Greek shot. So he's a pretty dynamic guy anyway. Videos he does are very entertaining. I'm very curious to see what he thinks about that, but more importantly, how many Toyotas it helps him sell. So very interesting. If you're not familiar with George, check out his videos online. They're very entertaining and quite different from stuff that I've seen from other salespeople in North America. So he's going to be joining us from Greece. AutoHub Club, obviously we're the improved website. We're improving it all the time. You can watch past episodes. This show will hopefully be live in its entirety, both on our YouTube channel and our website today. Any other questions, any feedback, we're all ears. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Instagram and Facebook, we're going to be building that out, so that's not currently where we want it to be, but we're getting there. And of course, a special thank you to Matt and Janice for sharing all the knowledge. Definitely. If either of you have any best practices you want to share, I can definitely put up on the website. And of course, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Any final thoughts, Jeff?
Well, you know, Janice, I do have to say, when I made the comment about the women in automotive, we would love to have you attend. I've always been a big believer in that, and some of the best salespeople I've ever dealt with or had worked for me or worked with were ladies. And it's you can come up with an excuse why it doesn't work, but I think it would be a great thing. I think it would be an absolute huge benefit to build on that. And hey, there's a great business model. Maybe we can build on having women actually being a hiring agency for the car industry. But I do thank you and Matt for coming. I think it was a tremendous show. And a final mention too about the vendor speak, because it's a place where people who have something to sell, etc., to join us. And we had a very successful one last Friday, and look forward to some in the future. So thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you for letting us
have a great month end.
Yeah, cheers, Saga.
You finished strong.
And
BDC's
Jim,
the new half an
where
hour.
is my Corvette?
Bye-bye, everybody. Have yourself a great week.
Take care.
Bye.